In a world of business, there are several variables that need to be implemented if a business is to be successful. And one of those many variables is communication. In this video, I will be running you through the introduction of communication in business, or in other words, business communication. But before we get any further, I'm Triple K, aka Kalaluka. Make sure you click the subscribe button and the like button as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video, and that way you support me and I support you with these videos in the future. So shall we dive into it? Basically, communication is identified as a transaction. People work together to exchange meaning through symbols. The direct exchange of messages that convey emotion, attitudes, ideas, opinions, or even instructions among individuals and groups. And all of that with one objective alone. And that objective is to create, to understand, and to coordinate activities. Communication is essential for the effective operation of any organization. It can be conducted informally through a grapevine or formally through letters and reports. So listen to me. Communication can be both verbal and non-verbal. When you talk about verbal communication, in case you don't know what verbal communication is, it's when the way I'm communicating with you right now, this is verbal communication. You're able to listen to my voice. But non-verbal communication is communication through letters, emails, messages, all of these variables of communication that don't involve you opening your mouth, you know what I mean? Let me be honest with you. There is no creature on this earth that is living that can survive without the privilege of communication with its fellow species. In a nutshell, in case you haven't understood anything that I've told you up to this point, communication is basically the exchange of information from one organism to another, one way or another, whether verbal or non-verbal. So now, apart from communication only being important for living organisms to survive, communication is also important for business organizations. There needs to be some forms of communication in all of the sectors, or rather departments in the business. The main place that communication stems from is being able to understand others and being able to make others understand us. The majority of our communication skills is there to influence the way people think and how people feel. In a business, communication can happen in many different ways. The marketing team can communicate on ways to improve the marketing of the business, the brand image, and so on. The production can have communication about what really to implement in their products or their services to gain more clients and all of that. And maybe even in the executives, maybe there may be plans on who gets hired and who gets fired and stuff like that. So communication is very important for business. I mean, imagine if you knew of a business that doesn't communicate with... Okay, scratch that. Imagine if you knew of a business that has employees that don't communicate with one another at all. I mean, imagine if you got employed at a business like that, right? You go and work and nobody even says a word to each other. You don't know what role you've been hired for. You don't know what to do on a daily basis. You don't know who to report to. You're just going to sit around, or I don't know, even break the rules because there's nothing that has been set forth. There is no communication in that business. Communication is a two-way process where the information is sent from one person through a channel to another who then reacts by giving feedback. Another word that is commonly used for feedback is a response. So let's look at a few communication models. The process of communication is one of the hardest things to ever analyze because communication never ever remains the same. Communication always changes as time goes by. The way people used to communicate in the 20th century is not the way people in the 21st century communicate. Or even scratch that. People in 2006 don't communicate the same as people in 2024. You see, the purpose of a model is to simplify a complex process. The complex models that have been developed serve as an analysis. The analysis of the major components in communication. In other words, communication is basically how people exchange meaningful information. There's no other way that I can put it. It's just as simple as that. Don't put anything else in the exam paper or anything else that you're going to do with this information. Communication is basically the exchange of information from one person to another through mediums, through other people, through messages, through letters, through all of these other variables. The first model that we can look at is the linear model. The linear model of communication shows communication as a system of interrelated elements. Here are a few elements that I would like to talk about. First of all, we have the sender, the person that wishes to communicate the message. We have the message, what the sender wants to convey in the message. Then we have the message, what the sender wants to convey. We have the code, which is what the sender uses to convey what is being conveyed, like a language, for example. Another element is the medium, what is used to communicate, whether it's over the phone, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's through a letter, whether it's through an email. We have the receiver, which is to whom the message is sent. And then we have the feedback, which is the response of the message. Then we have the noise, which are the physical and physiological barriers. And by the way, I'm not getting all of this information directly from my head because I'm also a student. I'm also studying all of this, but it's something that I've really crunched down. But let me just show you a picture that is conveyed in the book that I bought, which is talking about the mediums of communication. I think it's right here. Yeah. So basically, this is what I'm talking about right here. I think you can take a screenshot of this. You can pause the video and take a screenshot now. All right. So, in a nutshell, the sender initiates a message which is then encoded in a form that the receiver can understand. This encoding refers to the language that has been chosen by the sender, and indeed the form of the message, both written or non-written, both verbal and non-verbal. So basically in this video, we've touched the elements of communication and the introductory part on what communication in business is, or rather what business communication is and how it can be implemented in business. So hopefully in this video, you've understood one or two things. I'd like to see you in the next video. And by the way, in the link in the description, I have a little present for you, man. I'll leave a link to some of my music videos so you can go check them out in my musical channel. But otherwise, I love you and I'll be seeing you again in the next video, which basically, maybe I'll be talking about business law, maybe I'll be talking about business communication, maybe I'll be talking about financial accounting. Leave it in the comments on what business subject you would want me to make a video on, and definitely, I promise I will deliver. I will be seeing you in the next video.